All right, you're here on the Baseline Bums podcast. I am Rob, aka B-Ball Archives. I am with my boy AJ.
How you doing, guys? It's a lovely day.
Oh yeah, we're about to get into some amazingly wonderful topics. We're going to be talking best defender all time.
Ooh, that's gonna be a fun one.
We're going to be talking best NBA duos. And we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Spurs players, and one of them is going to be Bruce Bowen, and whether or not he is dirty.
Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce.
And we're also getting some Bruce.
Oh, Bruce.
Crack that open.
Shout out Zilker Brew Company. If you can pick up a Zilker brew, I recommend.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Absolutely.
Ooh, nice little pale ale action over here. Oof.
Oh, yeah.
Oof, this is going to be a fun podcast now.
Yeah, we got a bunch of really good topics. So, let's just go ahead and dive right in.
Well, before we do that, this signed basketball, I can't tell who it says, but it has John 14:6. So I'm imagining, is it David?
It's not David. It's actually signed by Avery Johnson. So,
shout out Little General.
Yes, shout out Little General. Just a fun little story before we dive in. I think it was either 9 or 10. I used to attend the Avery Johnson basketball camp.
Yeah.
And he used to host it at Home Court America. Shout out
Home Court America.
Dude, I did a post about Home Court America. I'm gonna have to show you that.
I love man, that place is awesome.
That story was actually about how I saw Antonio Daniels there.
I feel like everyone saw Antonio Daniels everywhere.
I mean, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm getting away from myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, Avery Johnson had this bit at his camp where he would challenge the young campers and see if anyone could beat him in one-on-one. And so, young me, I think I was either 9 or 10, and I'm super competitive, so I want to score on Avery, and so I get the ball. And I kind of go for this like off balance little floater over him, and I can't even really see the basket as I let go of it.
Sure.
And I'm not thinking I have a chance. And then as soon as he gets out of the way, I realize it's going right in. Swoosh. The camp goes nuts.
Nice.
And Avery Johnson then owes me 4 tickets to a Spurs game the following season. And the whole summer, I'm like, dude, this is going to be great. 2 months goes by. I don't hear from him at all. I'm like, dude, this is a bunch of bullshit. I just got lied to. Avery Johnson just clowned me.
You're like, I'm trying to see Jordan. Like,
dude, seriously, like, I'm trying to go to this game. I'm trying to take my family. I'm a kid, And out of the blue, we just get an envelope with 4 tickets in there. And where I was just like, all right.
Who is it?
That was real.
Do you know what team it was? Do you remember?
I honestly have no idea. I remember it was a pretty insignificant game in terms of like the
Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. It was something like that. But at the end of the day, the seats were good. I want to say they were either the 8th or the 9th row.
Sure.
So it's like the seats were good. Shout out Avery Johnson. He kept his word, even though I did score on him. I did.
And we've seen the videos as of late with some of these NBA players just sending these young kids balls to like another universe.
Oh yeah,
like these guys are relentless nowadays. So I can only imagine how it was back then too. But obviously with technology and phones now, we see it and they go viral immediately. Like because you see like these guys just. Someone forgot who it was, but someone crossed over. I think it was CJ McCollum.
Yeah,
crossed over this kid
at his camp. Yeah, like there's like. I mean, you got to have a little dose of tough love nowadays. I think some of these kids need that.
I agree.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's a fun little story.
Shout
Avery
out
Johnson. Yeah, Avery Johnson, a great player, great floor general. Yeah, definitely loved his game. But yeah, let's dive into some of these NBA topics. So,
right.
First one, let's just talk about best NBA duos. So who, in your opinion, right now is the best NBA duo?
That's a great question. Hard to go against Steph and Clay. It's really hard, but
Steph and Clay or Steph and Draymond?
Oh, I mean Steph and Draymond. Oh man, good one. I guess for recently because Clay's been hurt. I mean Steph and Draymond have been making it happen for the most part. I mean, watching the NBA Finals, it was a lot of 1-2 with Draymond and Steph, like pick and rolls and pick and pops, things like that. So, it's hard to go against the Warriors and their duo. But I will say, I think my favorite, I think I think the duo that definitely complements each other the most is Chris Paul and Devin Booker.
Really?
Because I think we see the best of Devin Booker because of Chris Paul, and I think Chris Paul, is playing better because he has someone like Devin Booker to lean on. I mean, he's had players in the past that he's definitely worked with that have gone on to do some great things, but with Devin Booker, I just see kind of like almost like a Tim Duncan, David Robinson, like take me under your wing type situation, where like they really complement each other very well, and you're able to see it in what they've done, in the postseason and having the best record last year and things like that. I really wish that the Durant, Kyrie Irving thing worked out. I thought they were going to be dynamic together, but if you ask me, I would say Chris Paul and Devin Booker right now are my personal. I think they're the best duo.
You think they complement each other
very
best?
well? Yeah, very well.
Yeah,
because Devin Booker wouldn't have been anywhere without Chris Paul, and Chris Paul, we're seeing the twilight in his career. He's really coming around and playing like he's back in his late 20s.
That's very true. Chris Paul has remained very efficient, other than some of the late season woes that we saw him last season. But
injury had a lot to do with that too.
You're right. There's going to be fatigue when you're at that age. I think that there needs to be some level of leniency, even though that ring is very elusive for a guy like Chris Paul.
Oh, for sure.
But I think when you brought up a good point when you talk about players that complement each other very well on an offensive and defensive level.
Sure.
So like for me, it's got to be Giannis and Middleton. It's got to be a guy like Giannis who can defend multiple positions and get to the rim, and he's accompanied by a guy, Middleton, who can score out on the wing. He can score down low. He can back down to the basket, turn and get that mid-range. He's a good three-point shooter. Those guys complement each other so well, and it's led to success.
Oh, for sure.
So the fact that this duo works, they have a championship. They have a championship together, and the only reason I feel they didn't get back to the championship is because Middleton was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt. They didn't have a closer.
Yeah,
and that's what you need. You need a closer. You need. Whenever Giannis has the ball at the top of the key, he's taking maybe one dribble, and everyone's collapsing. He's kicking out to Middleton, and everyone knows it, and you can't stop it.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really, really good duo because you have Giannis, who is super long, and you have Middleton that. For me, man, he kind of maybe it's his number, but he gives me Michael Redd vibes.
Yeah,
and like just
Michael Redd.
Yeah, so
I love Michael Redd. He had a few really great seasons.
Some great seasons.
Underrated left hand scorer.
Yeah,
I loved his game.
And I think when maybe like I said, maybe because his number, I see 22. I'm like, oh, Michael Redd. But I think that's a really good case. I think we got also like it's so hard to say duos. Nowadays or this year because a lot of duos were hurt. Yeah. So like right off the bat, my first one is Kawhi and Paul George. They for sure would be probably number one on one of our lists if they were healthy. I really think Jamal Murray and Jokic as well would have been on that list as well on duos. Just injuries and also like just. Updated resumes, if you will. Like you always want to have people who update their resume every year, and when you don't see them, like you said, Middleton, I think was that missing piece for the Bucks this year. I mean, they'll be back next year for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I have no question about that. But there's a lot of really, really, really great duos. But for me, I mean, just Devin Booker and Chris Paul, it's like it's almost like swirl ice cream. You have like vanilla and chocolate, and it just looks good all together.
Yeah.
For me, that's how they are. They just really complement each other well. Chris Paul, his game is really complementary of Devin Booker's and vice versa. If Chris Paul wants to play off the ball, he can. If Devin Booker wants to play with the ball, he can. It's just it's good to see. And I mean, with the twilight of his career with Chris Paul, like you can tell that he has a little more spring in his step.
Yeah.
When he's not injured.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important to just be able to coexist with that player and to have them uplift your game and not just have good games next to each other. So yeah, That, Booker, CP3, I like that answer. And another duo we haven't mentioned is Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. So I feel like both of those guys are putting up over 25 points a game, the only duo in the NBA to do that. So I feel like their offensive output, even though both of them are not really guys who excel on the defensive end, I still feel like that offensive output has got to be top 5 duo status.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, when two players count for, on any given night, half, if not more than half of your points, and that, like, you can almost guarantee that. I mean, that's a really good situation to be in. I'm really surprised that the Durant Kyrie Irving thing didn't work out.
Yeah.
I thought that was like going to be a duh. Like, I thought they were going to win, like, championships and do all this stuff, but it just seems that they just could never play together. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of the stat off the top of my head, but I know it was like under 60 games they played with each other.
Yeah, it was 50-something games.
Yeah, so another great duo too is Bam and Butler.
Bam and Butler.
They're very, very good. I love Bam's game. I think the Bam's game is fun to watch just from an outside looking in and not having my Spurs goggles on, because we've never really had like a athletic big man that can jump out of the gym and we're just throwing oops to, and he just grabs
outside of David Robinson.
Outside of David Robinson, David Robinson was awesome. Yeah, he was definitely that dude. But he was also a prototype center back in the day.
You're right.
So we definitely have some good stuff. I think also keep in mind like what's going to happen with the Pelicans. Like we saw only part of the CJ McCollum experience, and so like are we going to see CJ and Brandon Ingram together, and like that's going to be a duo? What's Zion going to look like in that situation? I think CJ brings some poise and some veteranship and leadership to that desperately needed team, and then the coach is phenomenal. I can't remember his name right now. The coach for the Pelicans, I'm but he's fantastic. I'm so sorry for our Pelican fans out there, but he's a great coach, and I think he's going to put him on a good win streak or a good. They're going to have a really good year this year, especially if they're able to get the Zion things figured out. If they're able to have a full camp with CJ McCollum, they're able to gel and kind of keep their pieces. I think it's going to be fun to watch, but I think next year is going to be a different conversation when we have this again with the best duos.
Oh yeah. Things change all the time, and lists update, and that's why we got to keep making them. Absolutely. All right. I think we've talked about just about every major duo in the NBA. I think
pretty damn close.
Oh yeah. I think it's time to move on into our next topic, and that's best defender of all times.
Ooh.
Like I love a topic like this because there's so many schools of thought. There's so many different ways you could approach it.
Sure.
Whether you're talking about a big man rim protector or you're talking about a lockdown clamp perimeter defender.
Yeah.
Who is more valuable?
That's a great. I mean, also like got to depend on the era.
It does depend on the era.
It depends on the era. Like if we're talking about 90s, like I'll probably go rim protector.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we had some really good perimeter defenders too.
Yes.
So,
So who are you going with as your GOAT defender?
I think. Oh man, this is a tough one. I think my GOAT defender would probably have to be. Oh man, this is a tough one. I've thought about this too. I still can't come up with an answer. It's so hard.
Yeah.
The name that really sticks out to me is Gary Payton.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say Gary Payton is because you saw it. You saw a perimeter defender be a defensive influence night in and night out back when rim protectors were the thing. And so when you saw the Sonics versus the Bulls in the championship, I mean, they were down, I think, like 2-0 or something like that. And then they put Gary Payton on Jordan, and it changed the entire series. They still lost, but it did change. It made it a longer series.
His influence was there.
Is there. And, I mean, the fact that he would come down the court talking that mess, in your face about it, getting steals, locking you up. I mean, he was called the glove for the reason.
Yeah.
Gary Payton pops out, but, I mean, the 90s were just so deep with rim protecting big man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, pick your poison on who you want to pick. I mean,
Right.
Patrick Ewing, Zoe, Shaq, David. I mean, like, just the list goes on and on and on.
It does.
I mean, you just good luck. So,
but Gary Payton is an excellent choice.
For me, Gary Payton was the dude. Because I'm also, my natural positions are 1 and 2, and maybe a 3 if we're getting frisky. But and so to see a perimeter player like him stay in front of some of these quicker guards and things like that, really really made a difference. And I mean, he was in your face about it too, and I enjoy guys who can back up the talk. So I would say Gary Payton for me. Who do you got?
Absolutely great. Gary Payton is such a great answer. He one of my favorite all time defenders, and like you said, he would let you know about it. He would trash talk you the entire way up the court. One of the guys that you didn't mention in that big man category is actually my number 1 defender all time, and that's Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh, dream!
And so I think I think for me, his defensive abilities, his rim protection, on top of the fact that he would get steals, he would get more steals than the guards would too. I think like if you pay attention to his numbers, there's a couple of seasons where he averaged over 2.5 steals and over 4 blocks. And when you talk about the defensive impact that he had, what kind of center is getting steals like that? Yeah, what kind of center is a pickpocket and getting in lanes like that?
Yeah, and then coming around and dropping 20 and 10. So
exactly, and so to me, he would be the guy that would be your ideal defensive anchor, because not only are you going to get a guy who's going to protect the rim at all costs, he's going to have the athleticism, the length to do all that, but if you need to have him kind of step out into a short corner or have him flash up to the high post, he's going to have the opportunities to get steals as well. And so I think anywhere you have Hakeem, he's going to be an effective defender. So for me, he's definitely the best.
Yeah, I get flashbacks of him abusing David Robinson. Oh my God, just it was a welcome to the NBA moment for sure. But I mean, something about those big men with like wristbands on their wrists, like the wrist, like him, Karl Malone, and those guys in the '90s, like they just they were forces to be reckoned with. And I mean, that's what made the era so great, is you couldn't get an easy bucket. Like there's no easy buckets in the '80s and '90s, even the early 2000s with like Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett and those guys. You see a lot of just great defensive players. And now they're few and far between. Now you're looking at players that can do 1 through 5, which is great, but you're also sacrificing a lot of those larger and more, for lack of a better word, like heavier guys. Like DeAndre Ayton's a great player, but if he was in the 80s and 90s, he would be like one of the top players in the league, in my opinion. Like just his frame, skill wise, I mean, he would have to work on his skill.
That's a bold statement.
He would have to work
right
on his
there.
skill, but frame wise,
he would be a prototype.
Yeah, if he was able to work on his post game and really work on his footwork and things like that, I mean, he would be a great center in the 80s and 90s. But now you need that guy that's going to stretch the floor and also be able to guard on the perimeter and shuffle his feet, but also be able to bang down low. And it's hard to find those guys. But I would say Gary Payton for me growing up as a kid was a lot of fun to watch. And then I mean, just the fact that he would let coming back down. I mean, Gary Payton was fun to watch.
Yeah, those are always the best defenders, the ones that would just kind of let you know exactly how they were going to shut you down and then just made it happen.
Yeah, well, I should say Sonics Gary Payton, not Lakers Gary Payton.
Yeah, for sure not that garbage Lakers team where they tried to get him and Karl Malone over there. Oh my gosh. That was an abysmal team.
We'll get into that topic at some point for sure.
But since we are on the discussion of defense, I think it is a great time to segue into talking about one of our favorite defenders of all time. And I know as Spurs fans, we absolutely adore this man, but other people around the NBA, other teams feel the exact opposite. And we're talking about Bruce Bowen.
Yes. Bruce Bowen.
Yes.
Who got his number retired.
Yes.
as a Spur, and then let LaMarcus Aldridge have it. I don't think he should have gotten his number retired, but that's a different story. This conversation is mostly about Bruce Bowen and if he's a dirty player or not.
Yes, I think it is a very valid statement because as a Spurs fan, I think we have a lot of bias. I think that we are going to say no. He was playing great defense and he was locking up the best perimeter players, whether it was Kobe or he was guarding T-Mac or he was guarding whoever. He was the one that was tasked with shutting him down, and there's no way we can shy away from that.
No,
but Bruce Bowen is a dirty motherfucker. Bruce Bowen is a dirty player. Straight up.
Hey,
yes.
No, he's so dirty.
Bruce Bowen is so dirty. Like, if you have several videos of you kicking people, you are a dirty player.
If the ref has to come up with a new call on the spot, you are a dirty player.
Yes. Like, I mean,
it looked like a football call when the ref made that call. He was like, kick, face.
Yeah, he was like that was some Karate Kid. I can't even react to that properly.
He's a lockdown defender, 100%.
Yes.
And if you ask Mav fans how they feel about Bruce Bowen, you get either, damn it, we respect him because he locked down Dirk, or I hate him because he locked down Dirk.
Yeah.
It's literally like that. That's the one conversation that was, or one thing that I think is very polarizing, is whenever the Mavs were like at their peak and Dirk was Dirk and he was hitting those fadeaway shots and things like that, Bruce Bowen did a great job shutting him down.
He did just about as good as anyone ever could do.
And he was giving up probably like 6-7 inches, something like that.
Yeah.
Like and he was always tasked with the best defender or the best scorer, and no matter how you sliced it, he was always there. But he also played within the rules to an extent.
Yeah, within the rules.
And I mean, it has a lot to do with, he might have gotten under a couple players. He definitely kicked Wally Zerbiak in the face.
Yes.
I mean, he played within the rules, and he made the refs call it. It's what Draymond's doing nowadays. It's exactly what it is.
To a certain degree, I agree.
Well, because Draymond, like, in a couple of those finals games, he should have been thrown out. Like, if we were really talking about technical fouls and having consistency, he probably should have gotten 2 in at least 1 or 2 of those games.
Yeah.
But he's making the ref make that decision for him, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the refs, and that's what Bruce Bowen was doing back in the day. He would make the refs make the call, and if you're going to make that call, then you're in for a long night. If you're not going to make that call, then it's going to be a long night for the player. So it's definitely I definitely saw what he was doing. I don't think we would be talking about Bruce Bowen today if he wasn't traded to the Spurs or picked up by the Spurs. I forget how he got in there, but I don't think anyone would give 2 shits about him. Honestly,
that's an amazing point. Yeah, like I completely agree. I think that he played so well within our system, and the only thing we needed him to do was defend, and then if he was open to hit a open 3, that was a bonus.
Only in the corner, and he was suspect at best on free throws.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually did a post earlier this year about just like some random weird NBA facts, and one season he had a higher 3-point percentage than free throw percentage.
I remember San Antonio radio and like news and stuff. They were like, "Can we move the free throw line to the baseline?" Like it was one of those things as a Spurs fan. You're like, how is this possible? Like, I mean, it was just he had the mechanics and everything. Free throws are mental.
Yeah,
and I mean, it could be because he was gassed from guarding your best player and running around the floor the entire time, or it could be, just he was uncomfortable in that kind of spotlight. But what was great about Bruce Bowen is that he knew how to defend on a pick and roll. He would either, if he knew if he knew what you were doing, he would obviously go above it or go under it. But he knew he had the best instincts for pick and roll defense. And I think that's why he was like a Kobe shutdown. That's why, I mean, LeBron had a great series against the Spurs, but like everyone else just did not show up in 07.
Yeah.
And I mean that's kind of what you wanted to do, but I mean LeBron also had a tough time getting the points that he got because of Bruce.
He did. Absolutely. Bruce never made anyone's job easy, and you can't say that he did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the best perimeter multi-position defenders
Yep.
the game has ever seen. He's got to be on someone's top 10 all-time
sure.
defensive list. Yes.
He won a defensive player of the year, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But is he a dirty player?
Yes.
Absolutely.
He is very dirty.
Kicking people in the face. I'm sure Wally Zerbeck has a hot take on Bruce Bowen.
Oh yeah, well, it's just when you have multiple videos of you kicking people, and there's just you've slid your foot under so many players that have been shooting. It's you're dirty. I'm not gonna not call you dirty.
Do you think Bruce Bowen would be effective in this NBA era?
I think he would be very effective in this NBA era. I think there's a lot of 3-and-D guys that you see that have a lot of success where you just have to be in the right system where they don't need you to do more than that. And if you can be there, hit threes, get your 10 points, lock down one of their better defenders, you can have a spot on your team. I'm not going to say like everyone's going to be Klay Thompson with your 3-and-D kind of play, but you can be effective. You can definitely be effective. But yeah, that's Bruce Bowen in a nutshell. A little bit dirty.
He came from the Heat, right? It was a Heat. Like we picked him up from the Heat, or a trade, or free agency. We gotta look that up.
Yeah, I'll need to fact check. So sorry about that, everyone. We don't know everything, but we're trying to figure it out. But yeah, moving on to another topic that I love to get into people with, and other franchises as well. But since we are Spurs fans, let's talk about the all-time Spurs starting five.
Ooh.
There's a lot of different ways you could potentially go with it, but
you can go a lot of ways.
But I think there's one clear way that you can maximize the personnel, and I want to see how you go with it.
And that's all time, like
all time.
One season to whole career.
One season, the whole career, but it has to be just like how they were as a Spur.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
It can't be like they played 1 year.
So I can't be like Dominique Wilkins.
No. It cannot be Dominique Wilkins.
Oh man. Well, I think we'll just knock out the elephants in the room, and that's Timmy and David.
Timmy David.
5'4".
Yes.
Or 5'4", however you want to slice it. Gervin's my small forward. Yeah, I'm gonna go Gervin with my small forward. I'm obviously gonna have Tony at the point. And I know I probably should have Manu at my 2, but at the same time, I like Manu coming off the bench.
Yeah, who doesn't like Manu coming off the bench?
So I might. So for me right now, I'm thinking either I can probably make Kawhi a 2. I can probably make Sean Elliott a 2. But if we're going out for like just straight Spur talent, you have to put Kawhi.
Yeah.
So I'd say Tony, Kawhi, Gervin, David, Tim David.
Right. That's that. Ding 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 ding. That is the correct answer. I mean, I think I would just switch Gervin and Kawhi. I'd want to have Kawhi guarding the larger players, so I would probably list him at small forward. But like, honestly,
2 and 3 you can mix up. Yeah.
You're splitting hairs. They're both going to be on the wing.
Yeah.
That would be the best lineup. You got Tony, Gervin. You got your floor general who's going to be able to distribute. You got Gervin who can be your perimeter scoring option, and Kawhi doesn't even really need to play that much offense other than taking some open threes.
Yeah.
And he can just spend all of his energy locking down the best perimeter player.
Yeah.
And then you have, the Twin Towers. You have Tim Duncan, the best power forward to ever exist, top 5 player all time, and you have David Robinson, who's top. I think I have him 6th or 7th center all time.
I would say he has the best arms in the NBA of all time.
Ooh, that can be a segment in its own.
That dude was, I mean, whenever he like watching those old videos, especially in like those kind of frames, like he whenever he would get sweaty, like, dude, his arms were just glisten. No homo on that. Like, his shoulders, his biceps. I mean, like, that dude clearly did a bunch of pull-ups and push-ups in the Navy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be working out, and you gotta stay fit. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. Another guy like who I always felt like was so intimidating and big and had like freaking huge arms was Ben Wallace.
Yeah,
a guy that like was just so big
and that fro like is intimidating.
So intimidating, like a guy you would not want to see going down the paint. Oh yeah, so that to me is the all-time Spurs lineup. Whenever you're looking at, Tony, Gervin, Kawhi, Tim, David, that is an all-time starting five that, I'm not going to say it's as good as the Lakers or the Celtics all-time starting five, but it's a team.
It's solid.
It's a team that could compete.
Yeah,
it's certainly a team that could compete.
I mean, like I said, if you get Manu at the sixth man, like, because that was his role. Manu's role was sixth man. He loved it.
Yeah,
and I there's a lot of Spurs players that are popping in my head right now, but like they're not. Like it'd be more of a fun conversation to do like favorite. Like, I guess, random Spurs players of all time. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Because Will Perdue would definitely be on there.
Oh, yeah. Will Perdue would definitely be on there. And another guy we mentioned on a previous episode, Antonio Daniels.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy I saw play in recreation basketball.
And, 100.
And he was the most fun player I ever got to watch play rec basketball.
Dude.
So much fun to watch.
So, Antonio Daniels, I got a quick story. Antonio Daniels, we were playing, or we just practice for CYO back in San Antonio. And I guess later in the night, there was like a rec game or something like that at the gym. So Antonio Daniels came and like wanted to see his buddy play or whatever. So Antonio Daniels, I guess our coach started talking to him and we're like, oh my God, it's Antonio Daniels. Oh, cool. And so he was like, hey, like if I'll shoot a free throw and if I make it, you guys don't have to run. But if I miss it, you guys got to run. And we're like, oh, dude, lock of the century. Yeah. And, of course, Antonio Daniels gets the free throw line. Then he turns around and throws this, like, over the shoulder, like, just throw it up. Like, oh, there you go. Completely misses it. And he's like, y'all got to run. We're like, oh. It's like, buddy, you were my favorite player until then. And then you always saw him at University Bowl. He was always at University Bowl on I-10. Like, always there. Like you
shout out University Bowl.
Yeah, shout out University Bowl. Try to do a league there one time, but we were the only team that showed up. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Antonio Daniels. He was definitely a guy in the community. He kind of set the way for players kind of like Danny Green and like Patty Mills being in the community and like really embracing the community. Like
absolutely
going to like the local shops and going to local restaurants and things like that, and never shying away from a fan too. I think that's one of the cool things about being in San Antonio is that the players are so intimate with the fans, and I think that's why you see a lot of angry Spurs fans with the DeJounte trade because they saw DeJounte, at Walmart or CVS or out at lunch or at wherever he may be, and so a lot of people relate to that, and I understand, but that's another topic for another conversation. But, I would say another person on my list for random Spurs players is my favorite Spur of all time. That's Steven Jackson.
Oh, Steven Jackson.
He was my favorite player. I loved whenever his first run with the Spurs because he was the only dude that I saw go from the back of the bench or the end of the bench all the way to the starting lineup.
Yeah.
And he worked his ass off, and he was the only guy back in the day who had like a headband, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, oh, we got a guy with a headband. That's cool.
Oh yeah, he did rock that headband very hard.
And in all honesty, he's the reason why we won Game 6 in 03. Mm-hmm. He was 100% that dude.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, he would step up big in moments, and he would never shy away from the spotlight. He was a guy that wanted that pressure and had that dog in him, for lack of a better word. And I think you saw that because he was one of the only guys to ever really like stand up to Pop and really just like talk shit to Pop. And
even in later years too, in his second stint with the Spurs, he wanted to play over Kawhi.
Yeah, he wanted to play over pretty much everybody, and I love that mentality.
Yeah.
But see, Coach Pop has that same mentality where
Yeah.
Coach Pop's a dog too, and he's
Yeah.
going to keep it real with you and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're not going to play these minutes over Manu. Hey, you're not going to play these minutes over Kawhi."
Right.
And he just needed to be cool with it. But at the same time, I can see that, and I love Steven Jackson for that
Oh,
reason.
for sure. And Steven Jackson, if you're listening, if you ever want to come on our podcast, we'll come on yours, and we'll have a great time, talk about your time with the Spurs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because I would love to dissect that. Also, I have a Steven Jackson jersey.
Oh.
And it's I think my most prized jersey. Second. I have a Manu Argentina jersey from Argentina.
I remember that jersey.
But my Steven Jackson jersey is the finals one, and it's the only time back in 2003 that they actually made Steven Jackson jerseys. So
Oh, really?
you had to custom wasn't really a thing back then, and so they it's white on the front, gold on the back, and has Jackson, and that was the dude back when I was a kid. I was like, oh hell yeah, Steven Jackson.
yeah.
Because I mean, everyone loved Timmy and David and stuff. So like for me, I was like, I want to be a little against the grain, but like
Yeah.
Steven Jackson was like just so much fun to watch as a kid.
He had
So-
that. He had that attitude.
he had the attitude,
Yeah.
and he backed it up, and his shot also is really pretty.
Yeah.
He has a really pretty jump shot. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on
Absolutely.
Spurs.
Shout out Steven Jackson. Love it. Yeah. So, I mean, we dove into a lot of good Spurs topics. I loved it. I think we should finish out the episode with another player comparison.
Ooh,
So,
comparison players.
last week we did Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, and I think we should do another legendary and current. And I think I want to do one a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of people are talking about Steph Curry, obviously won the most recent championship.
Sure.
So, Steph Curry, Magic Johnson. We're talking point guards. We're talking all time right now. So, who do you have higher ranked all time? Who would you rather have as your point guard?
Knee jerk says Magic. Reason being because he created so much, and I think he's the only player. I'm almost positive he's the only player to win a national championship and an NBA championship in back-to-back years. So I mean, he knows what he's doing.
He knows success.
He knows success, and the fact that he was able to do it for in a I want to say a small window, but a shorter window than what it should have been, because of his diagnosis and things like that. But for me, Magic kind of set the foundation for these big men that can dribble, pass, shoot, kind of do it all.
Absolutely. He is the first
He's the
true
first
point forward.
Right, for sure. Like, I don't know if we'd be like, would LeBron, would Dirk, would these guys, like, would they be like, I mean, not really Dirk, but in terms of like being light on your feet as a big man, like,
Yeah.
would we be like, what if LeBron James's coaches back when he was coming up just said, hey, just stay down low, you're a 4 or 5, or with like, because they have Magic to look at, hey, you're a point forward because you can dribble the ball, you can pass it, you have the vision. But his Magic was so much fun to watch. Like, watching highlights and watching old games on NBA TV, like, not the highlights you see on like every reel, but like the everyday kind of like behind the back passes that Magic was making. Not the greatest shooter, but I mean, he could get to the rim, and he definitely had a hell of a sky hook too.
Oh yeah.
So he's also a completely different point guard than Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a shooting point guard. Like, he's the guy that will just dribble up the ball, take a screen, go left or right, and just chunk it, and he'll go in. Like, that's what he did. Magic, on the other hand, he would take a screen, pass it, get the ball back, pass it. I mean, is there anyone more fun to watch in a fast break than Magic?
I don't know. He's the guy that if you're in a fast break with him, he can pass you open. He's going to create the pace to get you open, and he's gonna. If you're not open, he can throw the ball into an area,
Yeah.
and then you will then be open. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when you said they're just two completely different point guards, and that's why you can't compare them in the same ways, but you also can.
Yeah.
So like I'm viewing total contribution, and I think I take Magic, you have to take Magic when you talk about his assists, when you talk about the fact that he was not only distributing the ball at the level he was, but he was creating more opportunities for his teammates with his rebounds.
Yeah.
He's such a better rebounder than Steph Curry that he's enabling just more opportunities. And I think that's something that kind of gets overlooked. And obviously he's not scoring as much when you look at their scoring output.
Yeah.
Steph Curry all time, he's 24.3, Magic is 19.5.
Yeah.
But Magic has over 3 more rebounds a game than him. Magic has almost 5 more assists per game than him. And another thing that people tend to forget about Magic is he led the league in steals twice.
There you go.
And so like he was also a decent defender,
Yeah.
although neither of them have made any all defensive teams,
Sure.
and I don't think Steph Curry
I
ever
think,
will.
yeah.
But I think that will always be kind of something that they share is
Sure.
that they were kind of lackluster defenders to a degree. I think that Magic was a more elite defender than Steph, but I think that they had more much more success running offenses than they ever did playing defense.
For sure. I don't know if, do you think the Lakers would be where they're at today without Magic?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna have to say no, because the entire NBA in the late '70s was dying. Like no one was watching the game, and so I don't.
It was on delay.
Yeah, like people were legitimately talking about just letting the NBA go bankrupt, and then these teams just dissolving, and then they're just these billionaire or millionaires at the time were just gonna take their money and split, and so just the fact that he was compelling enough to get people to watch, along with the rivalry with Bird.
Ooh,
and that was must-see TV.
Yeah.
So when you talk about his impact, he personally saved the NBA. There's so much weight that goes into that I don't think people really, think about or talk about. I mean, of course, Curry changed the game. Now people are
Yeah.
shooting more threes. There's a lot of different styles being played. But there may not have been a popular NBA had Magic hadn't done what he did.
Yeah, especially being in a city like LA when it's it's Hollywood, and Dr. Bus was out there. I mean, the Showtime on HBO is
Absolutely.
a fantastic depiction of what was
Absolutely.
going on
If
there.
you haven't seen Winning Time, go watch Winning Time. HBO Max, whatever you have, go watch it.
It's really good, and I just think it's it's interesting to see just you kind of see like these levels in the NBA of like, all right, these guys set the foundation, these guys kind of took the torch, and these guys moved over here, and like they're coming from for the most part different organizations, but I mean the Lakers have been there for ever. I mean they have the second most championships in the NBA. I mean obviously Boston has one and is number one, so you see these storied franchise. I mean there is a time. I think up until I want to say like the Mavs won, or even the Heat. If you look back on it, I think in the past like 30 years, only like 7 teams or 8 teams have won the NBA championship. Like I think like the Raptors and the Bucks are anomalies.
Yeah,
because it's Warriors, Spurs, Bulls, Lakers, Boston, and Heat, and then it's really, that's Rockets, I guess.
yeah.
There's really not
Detroit.
Yeah,
A couple of times, when you
but-
talk about 04 and then the late 80s.
Yeah, so there's really hasn't been. If you want to go back to the 70s too, and add the Warriors' first title to that conversation. Hell,
It's not that diverse.
Yeah, you can even go back to like the I think early 70s or late 60s when the Bucks won it with was it Wilt? I think so. It's a very interesting thing to see because it's if Magic wouldn't have gotten drafted and picked up by the Lakers, and I think they would have been still a great team because they still had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all those other guys. Worthy was I think on that team as well. So they had a great team, but like Magic really kind of put it all together, and you have to have the conversation. So just so you know, guys, when we're doing these player comparisons, another thing that you need to consider is everything off the court. Like in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s, these guys weren't really taking care of themselves.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. In the 70s, I feel like
Yeah.
in the 70s and borderline 80s,
Yeah,
you're
well,
absolutely right.
I mean, even in the '90s with MJ, like he would go out and play golf and drink beer and like smoke cigars.
Yeah, that's
then,
true.
And then drop 40 that night. Like it's kind of crazy to think about. Cause,
So you don't think any players are drinking beer or smoking cigars nowadays? You don't think?
no, I think they are, but I don't think they're doing it on game days. I think they're. I don't think they're. I think they're recovering. I think they're really taking consideration what their body's doing. I don't think they're eating like McDonald's every other meal.
That's true. That's true.
You know, there's a lot of health and fitness that come into play. I mean, LeBron's spending like $1.5 million or something on his body every year.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I don't think LeBron's seen a donut in 20 years.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
there's just things like that. That was health and fitness a thing? Sure, but it was more like let's play basketball and that's our health and fitness.
Yeah.
And then we'll go eat a 40-ounce porterhouse like tonight, and then wake up. We'll see what happens. Kind of thing.
Yeah. We'll smoke cigs in the locker room
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Right,
yeah,
right,
that's it's definitely evolved from that. I will 100% agree with you.
Because I mean that's why we have these players that are playing 20 plus years now, because they're just taking care of their body, and also like the technology and shoes come into play too. Because I mean, you think about this, Magic and Bird were both playing in Converse.
Yeah.
Like Chuck Taylor high tops.
Yeah, you might as well be playing in moccasins. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, like
there's no support.
no support. I mean,
Yeah.
or Nike Blazers, like those kind of shoes. Like
Yeah.
it was, it was definitely different. And I think a lot of the overall society and the sport has evolved so much that now recovery is just as important as your ball handling skills.
Oh yeah.
So, just some things to consider whenever we're having these conversations. It's not like we don't like this era of players. It's just different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just different, and then everything requires perspective. Because I see a lot of players nowadays, and they're like, "Oh, this player from this current era that we're in right now. If we dropped this player in the 60s or 70s, they would absolutely dominate." And you're absolutely right. But they have the benefit of modern sports science.
Yeah.
Like imagine if we had guys like Wilt and Dr. J, and they were able to jump in a cryo chamber and recover, or had the benefit of going hot tub, cold tub, hot tub, cold tub, or were able to get these like knee draining operations and had the
100%.
benefit of taping your ankles and just things like that. Yeah.
Like think about ACL tears.
Yeah.
No more than 10, 15 years ago. Death sentence.
You're right. You were out for over a year,
Yeah.
and you were going to be 80% of the player you were at best.
I mean, look at Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah.
Amari Stoudemire, when he was playing as 32 for the Suns, he was a problem. Not to say he wasn't a problem after that, but after he got his knee surgery, he just wasn't the same player.
Yeah.
He wasn't the same player. I mean, he was still jumping out of the gym and doing his thing, but it really stunted some of his growth in the NBA. So you just got to think about those things, just the technology of just everything, just it changes. And I mean, I'm glad to see like these longer careers. It makes me very happy to know that Steph's probably going to play until he's like 40 plus. He's more than likely. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. His game is so appealing for a longevity career. Because he's not attacking the basket like Russell Westbrook. He's not, going off one leg. He's not falling to the ground every play like Tony Parker used to do. He is shooting, and he's only going to continue to be efficient at it. And as long as he just stays with some of his quickness and he's able to kind of evolve as well with his career, and maybe just be a guy on the wing at some point down the line. He has a really good chance to play in a lot of years, and with his wife the way she cooks, I think he has a really good shot.
That's a good point right there. Well, damn, I think that feels like we covered a lot of good stuff. I'm feeling good about that episode. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, well, that's a successful Baseline Bums episode. I am your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives. Thank y'all for stopping by, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you. Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go.